Hi everybody, welcome to episode 41 of A Fern Between Us.
We are two of the four owners of Vivac Winery. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Michelle. And tonight, being that it's New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year's, you guys.
Yay!
I'll say this a few times maybe.
Right? So our episode is about bubbly. And so we're going to taste 3 different bubblies. We are starting with a Cava, Cava being from Spain.
Spanish sparkling wine. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how it's made versus other wines?
So generally speaking, it's made in the traditional champagne method, which is méthode champenoise. But it often has different grapes. So sometimes it has Chardonnay and Pinot, but generally speaking, it has some grapes that you've probably never heard of. And off the top of my head, I can't tell you what they are. I was like, oh, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you remember?
What differentiates a Cava from a champagne?
It's not made in Champagne. It's made in Spain.
And that's it?
Well...
Because they always taste different.
But it's because of the different grapes.
Is that all?
Generally speaking, they
Okay.
make cavas in the same traditional method. They do use mechanical riddlers instead of riddling by hand. So we're going to talk about what that means.
Do all
in just a second.
champagneries riddle by hand?
The upper end ones, yes.
Whoa.
They still riddle by hand. So
did
let's
not know
talk a
that.
little bit about what is bubbly. So Jesse, winemaker, do you want to talk
Okay.
about what bubbly is?
So, sparkling wine, or bubbly, is any wine that's effervescent, actually. But there's a traditional method versus a non-traditional method. The traditional method is the one we'll talk about. The non-traditional, you just carbonate it like you would beer or anything else. The traditional method is where you make a base wine, they call it, and then bottle it, but with a little bit of yeast and a tad more sugar. So at the point of bottling, it's dry, but then they'll add a little bit of sugar called the dosage. It's a sugar, 1 ounce of sugar liquid, and some yeast, and then it re-ferments in the bottle. Then a handful of months up to maybe 2 years later, 18 months being a really good, point, or 12 months is like a, but anyway, they'll take the cap off, they cap it with a beer cap.
So in between there, they're slowly
Oh yeah. Okay, so
turning
then
the bottle.
so then it ferments and the fermentation stops, and then
second fermentation in the bottle.
right, the fermentation in the bottle stops. All the yeast drops to the bottom, and then they have to get that yeast up into the neck of the bottle. So I'll demonstrate on this. So all the yeast will be down here, part of what the punt is for. So the yeast will kind of go down to the side, and then they'll do this slow process where they tip it over, and all the yeast will fall into the neck of the bottle, and then they freeze the neck of the bottle, uncork the cork, take the sludge, the cap with this, it's a frozen cap.
Disgorging.
They take a frozen cap out, put a little more liquid in, or wine in,
Topping it.
so that it's a full bottle, and then they put the cork that you end up seeing in the bottle. And so so the process of tipping it over is called riddling, and every time they twist it real quick to jar
Just a little bit.
the yeast loose, which is now in a strip down here. They twist it and pick it up, and then twist it and pick it up, and then twist it and pick it up until all that sediment is down here.
And so there's riddling boards that these bottles are stacked in. And so the really famous wineries, champagne houses, you pay all the big bucks, is a big part of that is having somebody do that by hand. They
Yeah.
feel that tradition and that very delicate touch is a big part of what makes champagne, but
it can be several people's full-time career to just constantly be
a
doing
riddler.
that. You're just a riddler. Where you go literally through these caves and twist every single bottle and just move them ever so slightly, all day, all night. You spend all day in the dark in the caves. They have like mental issues, these people. It's crazy. No, seriously, it's like, no, they do. They're like,
Is that where the
need
Riddler
therapy.
came from?
Maybe he's just a crazy person from doing the riddling all day. I don't know. But, you know, if you can imagine thousands and thousands of bottles, it takes a lot of time to do that. And then they start back over at the beginning. And then somebody comes through, takes those bottles, disgorges, and, you know, does their final bottling. But
So we're starting with the Cava
Okay.
because we are, all three of these are brut. So brut is the word for dry sparkling wine. So if it's not from Champagne, you need to call it sparkling wine. If it's from Spain, you call it Cava. If it's from Italy, it's Prosecco, generally speaking. So, you know, you can get into some nuances, but we're gonna...
but they're all sparkling wine.
Exactly.
And in the States,
if it's
we call
from
it
Napa, it's
Champagne,
sparkling
but we shit it.
wine. Yeah. Champagne doesn't like that. Champagne, the region, really is picky about who gets to say
Yeah.
what. Anyway.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. And so we're doing it in tasting order. All three are brut, so they're all dry. But the champagne that we have is a rosé, so we're gonna finish with that. So hold up the Cava that we got.
So we got a Cava.
We
It
are in
is
Mexico. We did go to a specialty wine shop, but you know,
Marquez de
we're a little,
Moja.
we're a little.
Marquez de, it's up there. There it is. Marquez de Moja. It's, and this tastes great.
This is
There's-
really very good.
It's kind of funky and weird. There's
It's
like
got
a
some
smoke.
cheese.
Oh, cheese. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like the stinky cheese feet. It's good.
Gotta love stinky cheese feet. All right, so you know, as Jesse's going to demonstrate opening the next one, which we should do the Prosecco next. And so one of the things, one of the questions actually that we have is how to serve bubbly properly. So you actually want to serve it in a shorter glass. So you do want to use a flute. So that it keeps the integrity of the bubbles, and then pour shorter glasses. We're used to, you know, filling it up to the top with bubbles, but actually you want to keep it cold longer, and so doing a shorter pour is really important.
So I've taken the foil off. I've taken the basket
But
off.
you usually don't want to leave your cork exposed like that without your hand on it, because it can just
and will
take off.
explode. So anyway, so you cover it, you keep this covered, and the actual way is you're supposed to hold onto this and then twist the bottle.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful. You've got some smoke coming out, but no spillage. So if your bubbles have been put in the fridge long enough, it is chilled down long enough,
There it is.
Then-
Prosecco.
then it's not going to foam over. So you also, the best idea is to do an ice bath. So that's ice water in a big bucket, and you need to submerge the entire bottle. So you don't want the bottom part of the bottle to be getting colder and ignore the top part of the bottle. And it's really thick glass, so that's part of why it takes forever to chill it down.
It takes longer. Ice bath is the best way to do any white wine, but to get it actually cold quickly. But especially with a bubbly.
Yes, absolutely. So that's another trick. That's another tip for how to. Oh,
Chug, chug, chug. I mean, you'd never do that.
no. Italy, you know, Prosecco has become incredibly popular. It's much less expensive. Cava is less expensive than Champagne as well. Again, because they have automatic riddlers instead of people doing these things, different grapes sometimes. In Prosecco, they're predominantly different grapes. Do you remember what the grapes that they use often are? Jesse didn't do his homework.
I didn't do any homework. I almost never do. I don't remember in Prosecco. I could guess at it, but I don't want to.
Right. So it is different grapes. So in Champagne, the classic grapes are your Chardonnay, your Pinot Noir, and your Pinot Meunier, often as a blend. If you do a Blanc de Blanc, then that is 100% Chardonnay. So that's an important distinction as well. So then with Prosecco, it's released much younger. So that's a big part of why it can be cheaper and not
often
expensive grapes.
a little sweeter, which is kind of it's kind of nice in a bubbly.
This is nice.
I'm not one for an off-dry wine usually, but
And it's still brut, so you're talking about just a fuller fruit flavor. Not that, I mean, you can get them sweet. You can get a sweet Prosecco, but it's
Proseccos
also
in general tend to be sweeter than
than a champagne.
yeah, exactly. And all these wines have a super high acidity, which we haven't mentioned. They all have a super high acidity, makes them great food pairing wines. But their dosage, the little bit of wine that they put back in the bottle after riddling and after disgorging, almost always has some amount of sugar left in it, unless like a Sauvage might not, but like almost all.
Sauvage doesn't even have they make sure that it's like bone dry, right?
Right, and it's because they have no sugar in their dosage.
Got it. Yeah.
So the
Secondary
dosage,
fermentation.
even after the secondary fermentation, their dosage, the head that they put back in there is often has like 1% residual sugar, but the acidity is so high, and so even in a brut, you get 1% residual sugar just to cover the acid a little bit because the acid is so high. The harvest happens, 2, 3, 4 weeks earlier than a lot of other grapes. You harvest at less than 20 bricks. So the original base wine has less than has like 9% alcohol in it.
And to give you a comparison, so less than 20 bricks for a bubbly, but what do you guys do? 24, 26?
So when a white wine, I'm going to consider this white wine no matter, whether it's a rosé or made from Blanc de Noir, made from Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir. They're still a white wine, so 22 bricks. So 19 versus 22 bricks. That's 1.5 points of alcohol in the finished product. And then they get the alcohol up through the secondary fermentation in the bottle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's also part of why you're chilling it down so much, is that high acidity. Now, another thing, just a real quick mention about Prosecco, is that they usually do that a tank fermentation instead of in the bottle, which is another part of why it's cheaper.
Right. Yeah, that secondary fermentation in the bottle where you have to do the riddling and all that stuff is obviously time consuming and therefore costs a lot of money. So if you're just going to carbonate through traditional carbonation means like a soda or like a beer or something, your wine, your finished product, your sparkling wine can be a lot less expensive, which is part of why Prosecco is like that usually.
Absolutely. And so this is a lovely Prosecco, I think, too. Lots of floral notes, and I think that's something that's very common. Ooh, look at that. Sommelier. So I think that's a big part of what you're looking at, as a Cava, to me, has some of the aromatics of a champagne. But a Prosecco has, like Jesse was saying, a little sweeter fruit, and I feel like it always has floral notes. Yeah. So those are little differences. The other thing is that people are very specific about their bubbly, and how to serve it and how to have it and all of these things. But then it's also one of the most widely used as a cocktail. Like, people are totally fine mixing it with stuff. I mean, hello, mimosas.
Right. And
it's also one of the very few wines that is acceptable to drink at all hours of the day.
Makes it one of my favorites right away.
Yes. That's why it's my favorite too. So we do have a couple of questions, and I also...
Do you want to get into those before, so we don't have to chug this to...
Sure.
Something?
We did talk about how to properly serve bubbly. One of the things too that we didn't mention as he demonstrated opening it is that you for sure want to point the bottle away from people, because it actually, what is it, like 50 psi or something? It's
it'll pop out of there fast, as most of you probably know, but it'll break your lights.
It can blind you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is that I was giving a huge class. It was back-to-back nights what was it, 60 people plus, big wine classes. And at the end of the first night, they gave me a bottle of bubbly as a thank you. It was very sweet. And I went back to the hotel room. I did a quick soak. Am super excited to open it and celebrate, and did the absolute stupidest thing and looked down at it. It popped, hit me in the mouth, and I had to give the class the next day with this giant black and blue fat lip. And so it demonstrated exactly what the 101 of champagne.
It's probably the best class you ever gave, I bet.
It was horrible. Everybody had to look at this giant wound on my face.
That's not appetizing or whatever.
Plus, I love making enormous mistakes like something like that and being like, yes, I'm your advanced sommelier.
Your resident pro over here.
So lame. Anyway, so just wanted to make sure that everybody knows. Point it away from people. And as tonight wears on and you open more and more of these bottles, it's hard to remember all these things. So, all right, the next question is, how much should you spend on a bottle of bubbly?
Yeah. To me.
Yes.
All right. It's there's a couple things about bubbly, and bubbly lovers are gonna hate me for this. Actually, I feel like what you're tasting is not so varietally driven like most wines. It's more process driven. Right, the flavors you're looking for in a bubbly are
the yeasty
components for that have to do with aging on in the bottle after the secondary fermentation. All those yeast holes impart a flavor that's kind of
lees.
Yeah, it leaves you like a cakey or a bready or a and it's this kind of like yummy viscousness. And then a little bit of age gives it kind of some toasted nuts, notes or whatever. But to me, it's a very expensive process. So automatically the wine's going to cost more. But I don't see the point in spending hundreds of dollars when you could be spending $40 or $30. You get too much less than that. And often you're talking reduction in quality of methods.
I agree completely with that.
I'm like 40-ish, it's a fancy occasion, it's great. If you are gonna make mimosas and it's a morning deal, $15-20 is great.
That's part of why Prosecco is so great. Is because
exactly.
You can get a great bottle. I can't remember how much we spent on these. $40 for the champagne, and then these were...
Cava wasn't that much, but we're in Mexico, so I don't know. But, you can get a Cava for $25-35 easy.
Yeah, a great one.
A great one.
Great one that you don't want to mix. And the cheaper stuff is what you want to mix with. But
for under $20, it's going to be hard to find a great...
great one?
Like Gruet.
An okay one.
Gruet is in the high teens, and we're local, so in New Mexico we get that for a little cheaper. So $18, 17, 18, maybe, on sale doesn't count. All right, so it's $17, $18 for their baseline, and it's a high quality product, but it's only because it's local. If you're out of state, if you're in Texas, it costs 22 or 25 or something.
Absolutely.
And that's right.
Yeah, and
that's correct.
Shout out to Gruet, who has been amazing since we got started.
I saw Mike Dominguez clocked in here. He's on our team now, but he just left Gruet this year or last year or something, and
he's Gruet through and through, and we're lucky
he
enough
loves
to
them
have him
and he
on
loves
our
us
team.
still, or he loves them still, and he loves us. What's up, Mike?
But so Gruet is amazing, and as Jesse and Chris were getting started winemaking, one of my favorite stories is how welcoming and supportive Laurent, the winemaker there, has
And the whole
always
Gruet,
been.
the whole
The
Gruet
entire
team has
team.
always been amazing with
Absolutely,
us.
really a lot of love and support, and so we're giving it right back to them. Including, I did talk to Sofiane, who is Natalie and Farid's child.
So Laurent and Natalie Gruet are brother and sister. Natalie is a Gruet. Sofiane is her son.
Yes.
Laurent's nephew or whatever.
Yes, and
Grandchild
there is,
of Gilbert.
yes, and there is a Gruet France as well. So they did originate in France. They have these beautiful French accents. It's fantastic. And Sofiane grew up in the winery, learning how to make
In Albuquerque,
champagne.
New Mexico.
And traveling back to visit his relatives, his grandmother, and is now the head winemaker for Iron Horse. Which, if you have not had Iron Horse out in Napa,
It's a
that
great
is a
champagne house.
spectacular
Or
champagne.
bubbly house.
Bubbly. Yeah, sparkling wine. Stop it.
Happens to all of us. I'm sorry. It's not champagne. It's sparkling wine, guys. Come on.
But so it's really wonderful to see that he has moved into head winemaker at another wonderful establishment. And I asked him what his thoughts were on some of these classic questions of, oh, shit, you moved on.
I did move on. Hey, yeah. What's your questions?
Well, I just wanted to share, so some
We
of the
gotta
things
hurry,
I asked him
Okay.
were, so the term méthode champenoise, that is a little tricky because a lot of people started putting it on their labels, and I wanted to know, now it seems like more and more, if it's not in Champagne, that you're seeing méthode traditionnelle and
okay.
variants in that.
And what are they saying?
And that is the exact same process, but Champagne got involved, and so technically you could use the méthode champenoise, but they've kind of started to stomp on it,
Okay.
and most people are switching over to the traditional,
Okay.
which means that they're...
Secondary fermentation in the bottle.
Exactly.
So that's
So
if
that's
it says
kinda
that.
interesting.
If it says that, you're looking at a true blue product.
Ooh.
I know. All right, so this one I'm getting yeastiness.
Yes.
For the first time, actually, I hadn't really gotten it on the other ones.
Yeah, they were very clean on the nose.
Which probably means a little more age. This is a rosé, which means in the base wine, they had a little bit of skin contact before, and it was obviously probably made with Pinot Noir and some Pinot Meunier. This is just my guess, don't know for sure, but that's...
Absolutely. Totally agree with
Yeah.
that. And it's dynamite. Did you show them the bottle?
I did not. Let's see. I've got it back in the ice here. This is called Prince Laurent, actually.
Ah, that's so funny.
Laurent Gruet was our Gruet winemaker for years and years. But anyway, this is not the same Laurent. This is a different one, but it's really funny.
Yes. So I thought that was interesting to mention because labels, especially with bubbly, are super confusing. Okay. I also asked him what he thinks, coming from a family of champagne makers, that what is it that makes a great sparkling winemaker?
And what did he say?
He said, of course, one of the things that you start with is great Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and cool climate in order to make great Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Yep.
So the other thing that he was really pointing out is the winemaker's decision of how long it should rest on the lees and when to rack it is a very significant part of specifically champagne makers' talent. And
In the in the first fermentation or the bottle fermentation?
I didn't ask to specify, but I took it as the second.
Okay.
But that's interesting
Yeah.
because it wood in the barrel be very different. So, Sofiane, if you're watching,
We'll be in contact. or you can comment right
yeah, just shout out. And then another point being the blending, right? So you've got Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, how to delicately blend those together in order to create the exact balance on the palate and be able to see that in the future, which is one of the things that I love about you and Chris, and we've talked about on the show, is
part of all winemaking, but I
Yeah,
imagine more so in this.
foresight.
We have not made a bubbly ourselves, so I can't even. It's it's gonna take a second to know what we're doing,
And
and I know that.
so one of the things that I would like to just touch on is if you're going to make a bubbly, what
Someday,
do
yes.
you foresee? Like we've talked about that maybe it would come from Chenin Blanc when we thought that we could plant it, and it's not worked out.
We cannot in Dixon apparently.
But there's also the idea of apple bubbly.
Apple bubbly is a thing, and it's pretty good. I'm probably not going to go there myself, but
Right.
I'm not anti somebody else going there. I think that's amazing. I think if and when it is part of the plan to eventually do this, but it's an expensive plan and it requires more room, which makes it even way more expensive because we need way
Whole new
more room and
whole new winery.
we need space to do the riddling, and we need.
Are you gonna riddle by hand? I'm not gonna see him anymore.
I can't imagine that we're
He's
going to
just
riddle
gonna
by
be
hand. I mean,
riddling.
maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I would doubt it, though. I would think we're going to go with, we'll have to buy a mechanical riddler, which can do, I don't know, it's like 1,000 bottles at a time or something.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And, but anyway, but it would be method tradicional. I don't want to carbonate, just, I don't know.
We're kind of sticklers for the traditional
I know.
methods
I like-
anyway. I
I
can't
like that,
imagine
yeah.
like now we're gonna make us bubbly and like
Right.
screw it up.
Right.
All right. Another thing that I asked him is what he feels like the misconceptions of bubbly are. Couldn't agree with him more. That people really think it's for special occasions, and in fact,
Yeah.
it is kind of the New Year's drink, right? Everybody thinks
That's why we're doing it right now. So we're
Obviously.
promoting the
myth.
special occasion myth, but it's not.
It is one of the most food-friendly wines that is out there. I mean, you can drink bubbly, and there's so many different facets of bubbly. Drinking rosé, prosecco, cava, and it just pairs so beautifully with food. That high acid is so phenomenal. So you can have a glass of beautiful Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay with a steak even, and it will be wonderful. So.
And there's lots of people, lots of really
There's
devoted,
lots of people.
really devoted wine drinkers that will start every meal, their appetizers, their first course, whatever you want to call it, daily with a bottle of bubbly.
Yeah.
And then move on to your rosé or red or white or whatever else you're gonna do. But
And then come back to bubbly at the end with your dessert.
I know.
Oh, it's so perfect.
it is amazing. I've got a wife and a brother who both are like big time believers in this. So.
Cheers, Chris. And another thing to just point out yet again, if you want it to actually be a dry bubbly, you're looking for brut. And when it says dry on the label, totally confusing, it's sweet.
Yeah.
I know.
If it says dry or if it says extra dry, even
Now
worse.
it's really sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So brut is the word in France, and brut is the word you're looking for if you want it actually dry. Kind of no matter where you're going. You have to be careful and maybe download and get to know the classifications of sweetness levels in sparkling wine.
Because, a slightly sweet wine is actually very versatile too, especially if you're into Thai or Asian cooking. Anyway, one final thing that I want to say from Sofiane was I asked him if he thought, in his estimation,
Oh, there it is.
thank you, my new earrings from Christmas, if the three could ever be actually equal, champagne, cava, prosecco. And he absolutely does not think so, which I could have told you that. But of course, being that wines of Champagne have such a unique terroir, and so they have chalky soils, it really makes up the flavor component of the base wine that shows through. They taste different. You are actually investing
Did he
in...
cite that as the reason?
Yes.
Okay.
But I agree, so I'm saying it as myself.
Yeah. The chalk soils are
Yes,
huge.
it is. It is absolutely a huge component. And so you are actually paying for a unique product. So paying more does get you more in a lot of circumstances. I also wanted to say, so everybody knows Dom Perignon, right? It's the classic. Considered to have invented champagne, but the English actually say that they invented it, so I don't know.
Oh, they're treading on thin ice there. Man, that's like World War III. But at least there was a war. There was wars between them. I can't think of one, but whatever they were called. One of those wars about to start again.
So one of the things that's interesting is that the monk Dom Perignon did actually put bubbles in the bottle, so to speak. So yes, there is a great deal of attributing his participation. But then Madame Clicquot is the one that came up with riddling and fine-tuning the process. And I personally love that it was, way back in the day, a woman winemaker, phenomenal, which is also just super cool for all us ladies. It's not a big industry for ladies, so.
Veuve Clicquot is a great sparkling wine as well. So one of our favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Which one of the questions is, what are your favorite bubblies?
Mine? I think you're the one to answer this, honestly, because I mean...
You can still participate.
Okay, I'll participate. I've stated on other episodes that one of my very favorite wineries in the world is Domaine Carneros. And they are a sparkling house. About half their lineup is sparkling wines.
Woman winemaker.
Right, and they're right on they straddle the border between Napa and Sonoma, and incredible wines, and incredible sparkling as well. I find all that, basically most of the champagne houses are amazing. I love all of them, and I particularly love rosé because to me it just has a little.
Yeah, let's pour some more.
It has a hint of oomph. It has a hint of
little strawberry.
It's kind of just got a few extra tiny little hints of flavor in there that I just love. I love rosés in still wines, and I love rosés in sparkling wines.
Rosé all day. Speaking of rosé bubbly that is absolutely fantastic is if you're watching Stefan Langmann from Austria.
Yes.
We're totally obsessed with his wines. We had an amazing time drinking his wines over there in Austria. And so cheers to you for making some of the most exceptional bubblies.
Anybody in Europe might be able to get a hold of it. Anybody in the States, good luck. Maybe New York.
Total Wine had something.
Did they really? They had a Longmont?
I think they did.
Oh, those sons
Am I
of
making
guns.
that up? I feel like I saw something there.
Anyway,
yeah.
Longmont.
Yeah, if you could find it.
Insane.
Also, I have a affinity for the Perrier Jouet, the Fleur, the bottle that is covered in the flowers. It's like painted on. They're so beautiful. That is such a delicate, beautiful. The aromatics are just incredible. It is really expensive. It's over $100. And so if you have something really special, it's really amazing. And when our daughter was born, the woman that I worked for at the time
sent the bottle over to the hospital.
We actually had it at the house. We kept it.
We went and bought a bottle from
vintage.
her. Yeah.
It was a vintage Krug Rosé.
Krug, yeah.
And it was spectacular.
Yeah.
And that's actually, bubbly was our daughter's very first wine to ever taste. When we handed the baby to my mother-in-law, she put her finger in her champagne and put it right into the baby's mouth.
So she had a couple drops of bubbly, and you remember what that one was?
Wasn't that just a Gruet?
I don't think it was a Gruet. It was something that had a fatter, thicker base. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, it was a rosé. It was a rosé bubbly champagne.
Oh,
I do remember that.
Okay.
But I don't remember what it was. I
Yeah.
think my dad bought it because we went over there to the hospital after the baby was born
Nice.
on the downtime. You know. All right.
Well, so
what else
anyway.
we got here, babe?
All right. How long will a bottle of bubbly stay open or stay good once it's open?
Okay. We open these at 6 o'clock our time.
Yes.
We're hoping they aren't flat by midnight.
We're gonna have to power through.
We don't have them topped with if you buy one of those cappers, you can pump it up and it'll still have some fizz in the morning. But they don't last as long as
It's a few hours.
it really is a few hours. You know, we're gonna enjoy these all night. If they're kept super cold, we could get lucky that they won't be very flat but as long as they stay super cold, the will stay in there longer.
Better. I don't know if you can hear this, but we are in Las Casas.
I see. Oh my God! Through the window,
They
I
actually
see
have
usually
fireworks going. I had no idea that the fireworks were such a big deal here, and I'm talking like
Invisible,
all the time,
though.
every day. They
All day
don't
long.
launch into the air. They aren't fireworks. They're
they
just big
bang.
booms.
And they bang.
All day, all night.
They're always
4
celebrating something.
a.m. 4 a.m. and bang, 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 bang. But they don't go up. I mean, you don't get any of the flare.
It's fucking awesome.
It's
It's totally
hilarious.
awesome, is what I mean to say.
Yeah, whoops. Anyway.
But it's amazing. Yeah, it's
Okay,
fun.
another question that I don't have written down on this page, but I love you for sending it in, was champagne, has it always been sparkling wine?
Champers.
No.
No shit.
No.
No kidding. Dang it! What's going on over here? I
So,
tell ya.
Champagne is a region, and they used to make, far before bubbly was created, just made still wines. And so the cathedral in Reims was a huge draw for the royalty. So the kings and queens and all of the royal families would go there to get married because it was so spectacular. And of course the monks that were a part of any abbey would make the wines. So it was the wines of the Champagne region that would serve for the weddings, and that is where you get the saying, a wine for kings, the king of wines, because that's what they celebrated with. And that's also part of the lore of that's an elevated status to have champagne, and that you should have it on special occasions, and you should of course have it with your wedding because that's what the royalty did. But it was actually still wines in the beginning, and then ended up becoming bubbly.
I've also heard that because in that all right, so you've got Chablis and Champagne are two far north regions of this is off the top of my head, so I'm going to be a little bit wrong, but of Burgundy.
Well, Champagne's different than Burgundy, but yes.
Okay, but it's north, and so it's super cold, and so it's even more rare for the grapes to get truly ripe, and that's how they decided to what if we added a little sugar, but not during primary fermentation, just later in the bottle, and then and that's how we could distinguish ourselves and make a 12% alcohol wine, which is kind of regular strength, and cover up a little bit of the extreme acidity and blah blah blah, in order to make a palatable and yet tasty and refreshing alcoholic wine. regularly.
Well, and that's
You know?
also, you know, what Dom Perignon was doing was trying to make like a better wine, and then he actually accidentally created bubbles, and then people thought it was awesome, but he was bummed. So that's actually kind of a funny thing. All right, we're coming to the end here. One of the things that we want to talk about is our goals for Vivac in 2021. Everybody's, you know, looking at this is a brand new year. This 2020 sucked everybody's butt, and it was really difficult. And so I don't know about having a resolution of like how we're going to be doing things so much better. We're just all surviving. But in 2021, we have some really exciting things about Vivac that are important to share with you. So, do you want to tell them?
Yeah.
Big news.
So we had been thinking we were going to do this last year, but COVID hit. We didn't know financially what the outlook was exactly, blah, blah, blah. We are, you guys have been amazing. Our faithful followers and customers and have got us through this year in flying colors, and we couldn't be more thankful. Cheers, thank you. And because we're still in decent financial shape, we are announcing that by starting tomorrow, for every bottle that we sell, we are going to we've partnered with a place, we're going to have a tree planted.
Eden Reforestation Projects.
Exactly. So every single bottle of Vivac wine sold, or every single 750 milliliters of Vivac wine sold in 2021 will plant a tree. And trying to do our part, and this gets us to we are now going to be a carbon neutral, actually a carbon negative company by more than double, which is going to be great. And you guys can help us on this. It's been something that we've wanted to do for a long time.
So
is to
buy
help
a
the
bottle,
environment.
plant a tree.
Exactly.
And
It's going to be amazing.
just to tell you a little bit about this amazing foundation. So they're an organization that is nonprofit, and they are reforesting areas that have been decimated. But the coolest part, I think,
They're
is
not even an environmental
they-
company. They're a
they're
poverty alleviation company.
So exactly. So they are going into the very rural, very poorest areas, and they are hiring the people of that village to plant, to create the nurseries, to protect it, to guard it. And that is a secondary part of this really cool program. So not only are the amazing species of plants and trees that were being eradicated being replanted, but the peoples of the area
Right.
are actually being sustained and creating a sustainable work area in their villages. And there's several different countries. We're going to launch all the information tomorrow so that you can see that on social media and follow them and support. And so when he said every 750 milliliters, that is a bottle. So every time you buy a bottle, buy it from Whole Foods. We're in the Whole Foods in New Mexico now. Buy it from Total Wine. All of
Buy
that.
it direct from us.
Buy
Order
it direct
it
from
online.
us. Exactly. All of that. You're planting a tree every single time you buy a bottle from us. But also, if you end up renting a keg from us or refilling your growler, that's also
Planting
going
trees.
to planting a tree. So there's
Exactly.
26 bottles in a keg. So if you want to rent a keg for your home consumption, because it's,
It's been known to happen.
locked down, you need more wine, that's 26 trees. So
Yeah, you buy a keg, 26 trees got planted.
Mm-hmm.
Or if an account buys a keg, they just planted 26
how
trees.
cool,
So you
right?
order it at their restaurant and they reorder from us. That goes towards it as well.
Exactly. Another thing, can we mention the
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So
something in the works we're really excited about?
something
but it's
absolutely in the works is sometime this year we are hoping to. It'll probably be like late fall. If we're lucky, we're gonna start putting wine in cans, and those will also, it's part of our environmental initiative as well.
Yes.
Glass accounts for a bunch of our carbon footprint. Cans do way better on that.
So that's also talking about shipping weight and all these things that you don't even think of as a cost in a substantial environmental issue with glass.
So, but it also opens us up to other things, like, so it's easier to go on a picnic. It's easier for if you're gonna go enjoy a concert or a which isn't happening right this second, but you know, those kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna be releasing
wine.
cans. The wine we're making right now will be in cans at some point, hopefully this year. We are really excited about that.
Yes, and the final thing for Vivac in 2021, we are planting over an acre of Pinot Meunier.
Yeah, Pinot Meunier, just like this bubbly rosé.
So
hopefully someday we will have a bubbly rosé of our own from our own grapes in our cool climate of Dixon, New Mexico.
Exactly.
And
and we owe it to all of you guys for all your support, and it's been an insane 2020, but we couldn't have survived it without you. Thank you for watching our show. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for continuing to come by and do curbside or do socially distanced tasting at our tasting room with our heaters and our plexiglass. It's been fantastic. We're going to do some new things in 2021 with the show as well. So stay tuned. Send us your thoughts on what you want to see, any themed ideas, guests you want. We're going to take the next 2 weeks off and revamp. Yes, we are, evidently. So to revamp the idea, we're going to try to up production quality. And in part, we are starting our journey back home to the U.S. And we're going to be in a couple of areas that we won't get Wi-Fi. And so we'll rerun some of the early episodes. So you can rewatch those on Thursday at 5 o'clock still. But we'll come back to you in 2 weeks. And make sure to send us your
2 weeks
ideas.
Or 3 weeks? We're taking 2 weeks off?
2 weeks. Yeah.
We're taking 1 week off.
We're taking 2 weeks off.
So we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
I'm doing math.
That's how math works.
Real quick in my head, I'm trying to keep up here. But
Yeah, I know. Drink fast and then do math. So thank you guys, and happy New Year.
Cheers. Happy New Year's, baby. Mwah. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.